Thank you so much for joining us on The Insight tonight. Our question is, which direction? That is our major question tonight. With Kenya Kwanza government barely 7 months in office, with Kenya Kwanza government barely 7 months in office, Kenyans are questioning whether we are on the right track. And of course, which direction Kenya? That is a question that of course we are, Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies, for joining us on The Insight tonight. Well, my name is Eugene Ochieng. I will be your host for The Insight tonight. Well, we are going to base our topic on three major issues, and that is, of course, on the education conundrum. And the education conundrum, we ask three major issues. 160,000 pupils are yet to join the junior secondary education. And of course, we are going to ask questions around that. On the education conundrum again, we get to delve deeply into the public universities question. Of course, they are facing cash crunch. And there have been questions whether it is time to privatize public universities. These are some of the questions that, of course, we are going to get to deeply answer in the education conundrum. Well, on The Insight tonight, we get to answer the China Square question. Of course, the China Square question has been a question that has been discussed within Kenya, giving mixed reaction, and of course has caused public uproar. We're also going to delve deeply into that issue. And of course, amongst many other questions, we are going to delve into these issues to get answers to questions that are otherwise you will not have gotten. But of course, we don't do this alone here on The Insight. It is our revered norm to bring different stakeholders and opinion shapers on The Insight to answer these questions. On The Insight tonight, I have a guest with me, and that is Samuel Wasike Masika. Thank you so much for joining us on The Insight tonight, even as we critically delve into a discourse tonight. Mr. Samuel Masika.
Thank you.
Mr. Samuel Masika is a political analyst, and of course is joining us on The Insight tonight as we speak many issues. And of course, there's also another issue that we're going to discuss, and that is on the KMPDU, talking about the centralization of health services. Of course, that is a very critical question coming at this time. We also have two other guests who will be joining us in the course of this debate. But of course, I want to start with you, Mr. Samuel Masika. Thank you so much for joining us on The Insight tonight.
Yeah.
There has been, we talk about the China Square debate, which has caused a major public uproar and mixed reactions from Kenyans generally. Okay. We have seen traders from Nyamakima taking to the streets to actually protest against the influx of cheap products, as they think that the China Square's commodities are, the prices are not quite competitive. Okay. And of course, this is a contention in Kenya. And maybe from where you sit, what is the major contention in this case?
Thank you very much, Eugene, and the GBS viewers. It's been quite some time, and I really appreciate an opportunity to come on the show again. It's been, Kenya is a busy country, busy in many ways, busy in, we have factors that are bad affecting our country, like drought and many other things. I pray that those people will find help and, of course, find a way to put bread on the table. Back to the China Square issue. The China Square issue, I think it's been blown out of proportion, because Kenya is a business, a good economy that encourages any person to come and do business. So from where I sit, I think the issue of the China Square business has been thrown out of proportion, and a lot of emotions also put in there. So I think the Kenyan traders feel unfairly competed with, because you realize that most of the products are again imported from China. So when they come to Kenya, the same Chinese who sold those products to them are coming also to set shop within the country. And so they feel like that is going to be unfair competition, because you're producing and coming to sell. And then when the goods are produced in China, a Chinese will buy at a relatively lower cost and maybe just pay a few custom expenses to get to the shop. So if you asked me, as we are growing as a country, don't we want our Kenyan people to do business in China? just like we want our Kenyan people to do business in any other country, we should also encourage the Chinese to come and do business within the country. Where I feel where the Nyamakima people are feeling provoked also to go on the street is because of how our leaders have again treated this issue. If you look at how the Cabinet Secretary was treating it, he was making it look like the Chinese, when they come to Kenya, they can only do manufacturing, so they are not supposed to do retail business. That's competing with the locals. But looking at the past 5 years or 6, the Chinese have been selling these things in the country, and it's not been a big issue. So I don't know whether it's the policies of the government that are changing or what is it, so that the Chinese issue is coming up. But I strongly feel if this issue is not handled with a lot of wisdom, it is going to bring in a diplomatic row, having understood that we've worked with China since the Kibaki time. So we have so many issues that have far-reaching effects, development projects. We owe China a lot of money, and so our relationship might be strained a little bit with this issue, and I'm sure even the ambassadors and the high commissioners have already come into this issue. So I strongly feel the government need to come in really fast and wisely handle the issue, so that we don't upset the relationship that is there between Kenya and China. And also our local people need another thing that I don't want to forget, Eugene. If you look at the way we do business locally, I think the business people within the country also are exploiting the Kenyan people. And that is why if a Kenyan sees a loop to buy something that they would otherwise buy from another shop at a cheaper price, I will not hesitate. I will rush there. And you saw how the Unicity Mall was busy. It's because the Chinese guy had set up his business, and then you look at they were saying that this guy is selling counterfeit things. Eventually, again, after the counterfeit agency has come in, his goods are not counterfeit again. They say the guy owns the business. Later on, to realize the accused guy is not even the owner of the business. So I think we need to stop being reactive. Even on the side of the government, I will not fail to mention, I think we need to work with intelligence, so that when an issue comes up, we collect all the information and intelligence around the issue before we come and again put it into the public and the media. So I think the way this issue was handled, I think something was not right about it, and I think we need to get wisdom to handle the Chinese, who have been our business partners and even our lenders for quite some time.
This issue is quite contentious,
Yeah.
and of course has even seen to the closure of the China Square. And but the question here is, just as I've mentioned, that there are some people who feel they're being exploited by the Kenyan traders, and that is the Kenyan consumers.
Yep.
And by the closure of the China Square, whereby they were getting cheaper products, goods at cheaper prices, well, there's still an outcry from the consumers themselves. And the question that is begged here is, who should be protected by the Kenyan government? Is it the consumer or is it the traders?
That's why, Eugene, I was saying, this is an emotive issue. The consumer feels aggrieved after the China Square shop was closed down.
From where you sit?
From where I sit, I think the government, at this time, especially the way the economy is within the country, the government should be protecting the consumer. It should be protecting the consumer, whichever way. But again, I don't think business people are there to make money, but I strongly feel the government should be protecting the consumer as things stands today. The government should be protecting the consumer. I recently read in the papers, the government allowed the private sector to import food products from outside the country. But I'm told they never agreed, because when they are saying when they bring in this maize from without, they are supposed to sell it at the prevailing market price. If you're careful, you heard the president saying that now the government is going to import maize by March 20th. You heard yesterday. But initially, they had let the market to import the maize. But the market is saying, when we import the maize, we'll come and sell at the prevailing market price. Even if the government, at the same time, the government has said that they are removing all the custom duty on import, especially
Mr.
on food
Masika,
products.
when you talk about government protecting either the consumer or the trader, isn't there an issue with the government itself? Doesn't it show how the government is weak on one or the issues of government sometimes? What do you think?
I wouldn't look at it like that. I think what the government should be able to do, you know, Kenya is a free market where things are determined by the demand and supply forces, where even including the prices. Today, if we had 10 Chinese coming into the country, even that China Square shop will have to sell the products at maybe relatively lower price than they are. So I think what our traders need to do is to look at a way to accommodate. Actually, why are we talking about the Chinese only? We also have other business entities from outside the country that are selling their commodities within this country. So I actually don't know what is so specific about this China Square issue, but like I'm saying, tearing the line for the government is not going to be easy. What they need to do is to create a friendly business environment that the consumer is protected and at the same time the trader is protected. We have so many agencies. Even in this country, you have consumer protection agencies. We have manufacturers protection agencies. We have Kenya Bureau of Standards that says whether these goods are counterfeit or not. So I think we are all covered.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Asika. You're raising several questions, of course, which I want us to go for a very quick short break and then come back to get the rest of the answers on the Insight. Well, we are taking a very quick short break. Please stay with this broadcast. This is the Insight.
Nakukaribisha tena katika makao makuu yako katika ulimwengu wa michezo.
Yoga is not a sport. Yoga is actually a way of life.
Ukiona FIFA inaingilia kati, it means that the FIFA rules have been violated.
From day one akiingia kwa akademi yako, unamwambia masomo na talent lazima ziende. The moment unasikia masomo imeenda hivi chini, hata time out. Hata hiyo time out kwa football account.
Wanawake ni wengi actually mpaka saa hizi. Tumekaa ni kama tumekuwa wanawake wamekuwa wengi kuliko wanaume.
Kuna wale ambao ni artistic. Yes, wanapenda mambo ya kuigiza.
I'm coded to look for solutions.
You limit yourself, not the sport doesn't limit you.
We say a dedicated women-only show that focuses only on women.
Academy is one of the activities of IYF. IYF being an NGO focused on the empowerment of the youth, we have various activities. So one of the program now is the IYF Weekend Academy. It started way back in the year 2009. And through this, we want to empower the youth with the soft skills that are necessary for their growth. So we prepare various academies, various programs so that they can be able to be nurtured in terms of the soft skill that's needed. We say we supplement what education is doing. Education is teaching them the knowledge part of it, but for us in the Weekend Academy, we want to give that platform where they can be able to now practice what they have learned.
So my name is Eric Maura. Currently I'm doing camera operation. IYF is very important because one of the things I've gotten a chance to learn a lot through camera operation. I've also gotten a chance to host one of the shows known as SportZone. So IYF is very good because even camera operation, I did not know there are different types of cameras. I did not know how to operate a camera. but through IYF, I gotten a chance to know all this. Thank
The IOF Wicked Academy teacher for the camera operations. It has been a nice experience seeing young men coming, learning things to do with filming, and also bringing out the passion that lays underneath. Then I'm very much happy because I know and I believe that soon.
Nakukaribisha tena katika makao makuu yako katika ulimwengu wa michezo.
Yoga is not a sport. Yoga is actually a way of life.
Ukiona FIFA inaingilia kati, it means that the FIFA rules have been violated.
From day one akiingia kwa akademi yako, unamwambia masomo na talent lazima ziende. The moment nasikia masomo imeenda hivi chini, hata time out. Hata hiyo time out kwa football na account.
Wanawake ni wengi actually mpaka saa hizi tumekaa ni kama tumekuwa wanawake wamekuwa wengi kuliko wanaume.
Kuna wale ambao ni artistic. Yes, wanapenda mambo ya kuigiza.
I am coded to look for solutions.
You limit yourself, not the sport doesn't limit you.
We say a dedicated women-only show that focuses only on women.
Everywhere, GBS.
Thank you so much for staying with this live broadcast. Of course, Tudabwanda 4 is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Ochieng Kwach. That is where you get to converse with us even as we delve deeply into this critical discourse that are actually for the benefit of you, our viewer. Well, I'm joined with two other guests. Right next to me is Eugene Otieno Owade, who is a lawyer and a legal researcher, of course, with keen interest in governance, intellectual property rights, and of course, he has published widely, including the local dailies. And we have Mr. Honorable Ochieng Odero, who is also joining us on the Insight tonight. He's a speaker of the East Africa Youth Parliament. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us for this conversation. But of course, we had a conversation that was going on the China Square debate, which is a critical debate going on in the country right now. But again, I want to start with you, Mr. Eugene, and to ask you what is the rationale, economic implications generally for what is happening, and not just economic implications, but even the political implications, and that which affects the relationship between Kenya and China on this issue.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be on the same panel as you, my nemesis. So I think I'll address this in a three-pronged approach. The first approach would be that on most issues of trade, most questions of trade are politicized, as we all know, right? The political system or governance of a country definitely determines the kind of economic activities that go on, the kind of investment that we attract, the kind of foreign relations or foreign policy that we have. So the first issue is this, answering your question. Of course, the China Square debacle will definitely affect the local trader. It will also affect how Kenya relates with its neighbors. And in this case, I want to specifically focus on China. You know, China and Kenya has had a very long history. But currently, China is one of our main lenders, China is also one of the countries or international partners from whom we import a lot of our local goods. So one, we run the risk of introducing several counterfeit goods in our country. But then again, the previous speaker had addressed it in some manner, saying we have the local institutions to address quality assurance. On the other hand, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need China. Kenya needs China as much as China needs Kenya. We are both bilateral parties, and it's based on a mutual. It's based on mutual. Should we say mutual trade or mutual obligations? So I think, as Kenyans or as citizens or as the government, we really have to do all we can to maintain the Chinese-Kenya relations. And one of them is ensuring we have a good investment environment, a good business environment that encourages foreign direct investment. Of course, there are debates around whether the Chinese engaging in retail stroke wholesale trade affecting the local traders. That's a debate for another day, right? But for now, I'll restrict myself to the question of foreign policy and the politicization of trade, especially under the current government.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Let me go to you, Mr. Ochieng.
Yes.
Thank you so much also for joining us. But again, the question the question around China Square, one that is very critical, is the dependency on the China investment. Do you think that by us continuing to maybe allow such, it could lead to dependency on China investment generally, and actually exacerbate the existing inequalities in Kenya economy?
Thank you very much. First of all, for inviting me for this particular show, and also to join gentlemen and also young people who we are aspiring to build this nation together. The question of investment and dependency should be on the both sides of the angles. And as my brother here have positioned, the government is very keen in looking into the type of investment we're having. And I even think the CS made it clear. It came out as a joke, but I think he was very serious about it, that there is no skill that is required in hawking. So we welcome Chinese as manufacturers to come and invest in Kenya. That is going to improve or even give our people employment and build this country. But on even the type of business that they were doing, my brother here said earlier that it was taken out of proportion. The government has the right to protect the local consumers, especially where there has been already an outcry. And if you look at how Unicity Mall, our citizens were flocking in Unicity Mall, it was in the interest of the government to really know even the types of the good they sell. Anti-counterfeit authority were already there, and they have already done what? Clear the goods. So now what you are moving forward into is that, is there any way that the business is affecting our local traders? So that is now what we need to give government time to actualize, and we need to have faith in the government. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe just to say something. You know, China Square is not an illegal entity. It is legally registered, and it went through all the stages until it was cleared to start the business. And looking at the volume of the business that they were running, that is a business that the county government, before they issue the license, they would want to know how you are operating. Kenya Revenue Authority, as they register you and clear you even for import, and as you continually bring in items, they are looking at it. So I think what we are, in our own admission, the way we are talking today, I think there are gaps in our regulations. There are gaps in our regulations. So, and then now what we are doing is we are firefighting. After a business has been established, then we are coming to realize that that business, there's something that is not right about the business. If you check clearly, and I think Eugene has alluded to it, this issue has been politicized. And I will still insist, even if the China Square shop is in the country illegally or irregularly, I think we need to be careful how we handle the issue, because technically, Sisi, I don't know what we will say. We owe China so much that we don't want to unsettle the relationship between us and China. There are times that we've not been able to service our debt on time. We've had even in the government's own admission. So that's not someone that you want to unsettle. Somebody was asking this morning, why are we not discussing the rice? Why are we not discussing the fish that is it's still being sold in this country, and it's a Chinese that is selling them. But we are focusing on this China Square issue. Initially, there was an uproar in this country when we had the Chinese even doing hawking. I think we also did a show here on GBS, and we discussed such issues where we were saying the foreigners were doing even hawking in this country. They were roasting maize. I think you remember that show. And now this is, and the government never reacted. So them acting now, I think it's their reaction is late, and therefore, and as you want to understand, Eugene, we have so many foreigners in this country. I want you to understand, I come from, I don't want to mention, maybe they will be targeted. The Rwandese, the Congolese are selling things. They are hawking. Have you bought vitenge from them? Have you bought these things for phones, phone accessories? Those are the guys that are selling those things in our estates,
thank you
against the wishes of our local people. So I think we need to go deeper, and this China Square issue, I still insist, it's been thrown out of proportion.
Okay, gentlemen, because of time, we're switching gears and delving into another critical discourse which we were to discuss. But Eugene, it seems you had something maybe to add on it in a few seconds, kindly, as we switch gears.
Well, I have at least 3 issues. There were at least 6, but I'll focus on 3 key issues. I hope you don't mind. So the first question is, the first issue is more or less like a question. Is Kenya a victim of the Middle East or the Chinese geopolitical wars against the US, UK, and other what we call the global north?
Yes.
Are we victims of such geopolitical wars? And the second question would be, why do we really depend on the Western countries and the Chinese for debt? So we need to refocus on debt sustainability. The third issue, which is broad, is that why don't we start thinking about limiting foreign direct investment into the questions of manufacturing? But really, we need to rethink how we support our local manufacturers. What have we done about the Indians who had industries since time immemorial? What have we done about our local artisans like the Jua Kali? They're producing a lot of quality material, but why can't we get it to the foreign markets, right? All these issues will help us address, will help us give quality to the local consumer, as my brother said. And then again, we'd have to ask ourselves, why do we have to go to China? Or why do we have to go to Japan for phones? Or to India? What does India produce anyway? Why do we have to go to all this stuff? Can we market brand Kenya? Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Kindly allow me to shift gears to another topic altogether. And there's a growing consensus generally that the education system in Kenya needs significant reforms to address the various challenges it faces. The public university conundrum of cash crunch. Just last week, of course, Egerton University dropped 8 courses despite laying off workers. And also 160,000 pupils are yet to report to Form 1, that is the junior secondary school, which is class 7. These are just some of the issues that are surrounding the education sector. And there are more. I want to start with you, Mr. Ochieng, on the issue of the education conundrum, because these are not just the only issues that I've talked about, but there are several issues. As an academician, What are the root causes and challenges facing the education sector in Kenya?
Thank you, Eugene. Our education system have been greatly affected, and I believe is the previous 844 system, and that is even what is affecting the universities. Because 844 system aimed at everybody going to the university. It did not give an option that after university, where you're going to. So why are the universities training anyway? So you train an individual and you become a graduate to be absorbed where? These are conversations that we are not having in the university. You look at the courses that are being scrapped off. But courses have been, instead of merging the courses have been spread across, that if you ask a student beyond your bachelor in this particular area, if you ask the student to elaborate, then they are so shallow that they may not even explain to you what they are doing. Eugenia would love to know if you really understand our education system prior to 1967, when we were having a similar education system in the whole East African region. Before the EAC collapsed, we had a similar education system. An education system that by the time you proceed to the university, you really knew where you are going to. So then now, if you have all these students joining university, and the question in university has been a major concern in this country, where we want to have each and every county, each and every tribe having a university. In training what? No specialization. It's a broad university. You go to where I come from. Even in our own sub-county, we say we want a university.
You think this is an issue?
That is an issue.
Why
that
is
is an issue? Because it is stretching government expenditure on education.
But it promotes sustainable education so that at least those from your village, I don't know what village you
yes,
come
yes,
from,
yes.
can get education.
Go to university.
Yeah. The question my brother is asking here, how many people even there qualify to the university? But you see, my major concern is, you go to, like right now I'm an academician, I'm trained in education. So you train me in education to be absorbed where? Can we start training our young people to compete globally? Train them to compete here.
Okay.
So let me just finish on this part. And that is why majority of even our youth right now are opposing CBC because they don't even understand what CBC is. But if they can take their time to really know where we are going to, and you see in every baby must walk, fall, walk, fall, and finally
so you really
walk.
advocate for CBC?
Yes.
Okay, maybe in 2 seconds, why?
I advocate for CBC because it is in CBC that we are going to define each and every child. We are going to account for each and every child where you are going to.
Okay.
So that even if you say at grade 9 that literature and mathematics is a problem, then we ask you, can you do carpentry? Then we take you to carpentry direct. You understand? So then now you are able to join the community and you are able to work and sustain yourself.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Masika. Generally, the challenges, what are the significance of these challenges that are facing the education sector and their impacts in the society? You have heard him talk about the CBC, and of course even he has mentioned public universities. He has an issue with public universities in his village.
I have had the privilege of working with technical and vocational training institutions for the past 9 years. And I want to agree with what Ochieng is saying. The focus, especially, most of us are not using what we studied in the university. It's not helping anybody out here. Most of the courses that we did in the university, and I think lawyers and doctors are the ones practicing what they studied, and sometimes they have to go again to Kenya School of Law to practice on how to practice. There are a lot of gaps in the universities, and I'm calling, this is my plea. I think vice chancellors have a challenge to actually practice what they teach us. They need to focus on creating solutions within those universities. What he's saying, we need technical people, because as we are looking at our country today, we have trained universities we know will churn out people who are managerial or, you know, the office people who are oriented, they want to go in an office, somebody who cannot take a djembe and work, somebody who cannot take a spanner, you know, stuff like that. So the solution to what is happening is what the government is talking about. Vocational, technical training education is the solution to the problems you have in the university. The focus, the too much focus, you know, university education was out of prestige. So, someone like me, I really worked hard to go to university, but when I got there, I needed technical skills. Then again, they are not there. So you finish university, go get technical skills. So one solution to solve what is happening in the universities today is embrace technical programs that handle, you know, when I leave university as a mechanic, I will not go looking for jobs. I'll open my own garage by the road and start repairing cars for people. If I leave university as a plumber, I will not struggle. And you know, university will not offer that. So vocational institutions come in. Another challenge that I would discuss, that's all I can say about universities and higher education. And then junior secondary schools. CBC is a very good program that the government envisioned. The only problem that I have with CBC, the implementation was rushed. Today, as we're speaking, Eugene, we have 2 teachers manning a class of 200 students in a school. And the government has posted 2 teachers. They have 14 subjects to handle in that school. Ask the questions around that, and you'll realize quality of CBC is going to be compromised. As I finish, I think the economy is not allowing parents to be able to raise money for school fees. You talked about junior secondary. Junior secondary has come in, and parents need to raise school fees for their young people. To be in these unequipped junior secondaries, glorified primary schools, because they have not left. They are there. The children, I heard the minister was saying they should just be putting on the same uniform. So you're wondering, it's a secondary inside a primary school with the same uniform, nothing has changed the name. And I think you just need to think that you're in junior secondary. And lastly, as I finish, Form 1 enrollment. I think the government needs to come up. Parents are really struggling. There's no money, and more young people have been locked out here. And even those that are being rushed to be taken to school, principals are not accommodating them. So I think we need solutions to this, especially for those joining junior secondary and just joining Form 1. Sometimes I watch the news, and I pray that God will make me rich and a philanthropist to support some of these young people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eugene, we have 160,000 students who are yet to join the junior secondary school. We also have cash crunch at the public universities, which have even brought mixed reactions, some even suggesting on the privatization of these public universities. Generally, in your opinion, what specific reforms do you think are needed to address these challenges that you are facing in the education system?
I think I'll use 2 approaches. The first approach would be to rush back to CBC just a little bit. The first issue is I'm as confused as my younger sister back in Rusenga Island about the efficacy of the implementation of CBC. I think this issue was largely politicized by the previous government and the current government. So it brought us lots of issues. We never focused on solutions, but focused on who would win the political cake, right? So the other issue is this. Most of these challenges we're facing currently, we're just trying to address the post-2012 to 2015 reforms, or the problems, as he calls them, yeah? They've put us in a tight spot whereby now we remember back in the days we had only the University of Nairobi, then we had Moi University. Then from the 2, we now had these universities mushrooming everywhere. Masai Mara, Egerton, Deraka, Ngorongo University, call them, yeah? But there was an intention to this. We needed to decentralize education so that kid in Northeastern or that child from Nyanza who is just a fisherman and has no hopes can get a university closer to them, right? The other issue is this. There's the marketability of courses. Of course, we'll get to the budget. I'm just trying to build the blocks. After these reforms, we had an issue whereby a course in somebody goes to study environmental science. Then the university decides to call it a bachelor's degrees in environmental science with IT. Then you have another breakdown, botany, something, you know. We have these broken down courses that are not so much marketable. So we all focused on getting funding, students streaming to universities, attracting foreign educational funding, other than asking ourselves, are these courses marketable? What skills are we transferring? So this brings me into the next issue. The problems that face our universities are at least 3 or 4. But I look at it this way. One, there's the question of corruption, which we can't run away from. Corruption is so rampant, and it is institutionalized even in our universities or institutions of higher learning, that we cannot progress. Look at Masai Mara the other day. I don't know whether the issue has been resolved so far, but I won't go deep into it. The second issue, which I'd largely blame the government and also blame the universities, is the question of funding. The government cannot fund our universities by 100%. We cannot have 100% funding. So what are the universities doing? We need to attain self-sustainability, right? So in self-sustainability, what are the universities doing to get their own money? We need to attract more research funding or put more funds into research so that universities can also get their own money. 2, we need to ensure skill retooling, especially to address the junior CBC question. Let us give the teachers the necessary tools that they need in order to implement this issue. At the end of the day, we will focus on vocational training, but let us not forget that the universities, despite the cash crunch, we need to look at 1, regulatory reforms, 2, budgetary reforms, which are very necessary, and we also need to ensure that universities and our TVETs are self-sustainable. That would be it for me.
Okay.
Eugene, can I add something? He said he needs a university, or the people in his local area needs university. Let me tell you, what has eaten most universities is the localization of even management of those universities. University means universal. So university in Western Kenya, Masinde Muliro, should allow somebody from Mombasa who is qualified to go and manage it. But do you know what they are doing? They are quickly rushing to make somebody a professor there so that they manage that university. I've seen rushed professors. Somebody you saw just the other day, tomorrow is a professor. You saw what happened to Moi University when they refused Professor Iro because it's not a local. So what is eating university? Another one is tribalization of management of universities. And as I add to what I'm saying, what he has said, this literally looting from universities. Somebody just take things that belong to the university and they take them home. If I'm sorry, I may not have evidence, but if you look around, just look at the lifestyle of some of the university staff, you can quickly tell that their lifestyle and their job earning is not concurrent. So those are issues that we seriously need to look at. I was forgetting to tell you, CBC is almost losing it. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of time. It's almost losing it because I've realized teachers are making attempt again to rank students, so that we'll have the very smart student and the student who is not smart. I think, as he said, CBC should focus on making everybody picking his area of expertise, competency-based, and so that we don't rank people. People are not endowed the same way. If a child is good in masonry, let them do that. Mathematics, ICT, they should be focused on like that. So I think that is my submission.
Let me say something.
Yes.
And in fact, my brother here, I would also wish that if he knows that teacher, he should come so that we can address that.
Yes.
Because assessment need to be done as per regulation.
Yes.
But sometimes I like talking about the bitter truth. Because when I sit at the ESC, we talk to the youth and we tell them the truth. Education is not cheap. Let us begin from that point. Education is not cheap. So we are going to have somebody training universally in Britain, taking law as a second degree, and you want to have law as a first degree and compete this guy. This one is having IT as a first degree, law as a second degree, but you want to compete. You are not going to compete. Let us allow and give time to CBC. It has pained me in the past seeing our own citizens mocking teachers. That teachers are even asking for title deeds. You ask them for evidence. They don't argue beyond that. So it is like parent versus teachers, and whose child are they?
Okay.
The parents. Lastly, I want to say this in this show, and it should get to the ears of everybody. Let us train in the university based on the need.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Let us train the university based on the need. Okay. Let us avoid just courses so that we have the name bachelors of what you cannot explain beyond that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Actually, we had got different issues to discuss and delve into. And because of time, I want us to shift gears to another topic as well. And this is on the KMPDU. And of course, KMPDU had is actually asking the government to centralize the healthcare system because actually it was decentralized. And this begs question on the effectivity of devolution. And actually it begs question whether devolution has failed in this dispensation. So based on this, on the KMPDU, and of course we have Linda Ugatuzi, civil society, requesting to have the government centralize healthcare system. Maybe let me get your quick views on this, even as we almost come to the end of the show. I'll start with you, Mr. Masika.
I think KMPDU are having very genuine concerns. I have observed, including from my own county and other counties. I think the county government does not have the wherewithal to manage health. Another problem is that the government, or we devolved, not the government, we devolved health, but we did not devolve resources to support health. So with the little money that the government or the shareable revenue that the counties are getting and whatever is being collected locally, that is what the counties are supposed to use to employ doctors, build hospitals, and equip those hospitals. That is beyond imagination. It cannot happen. So what I think, and what KMPDU is asking is that we form a health commission, just like we have the teacher service commission, so that let this commission manage human resources in these health facilities, even at the county level. I promise you, we are joking with health. Health is very important. You walk around. Many counties have not been able to break through on this issue of health. And that's why, and you know, doctors in my county are still protected by KMPDU from within Nairobi. So doctors working in Kenyatta Referral Hospital is in the same union with another doctor working in another health center down there in my county. So they are trying to see the inequalities that are there. And doctors are there trained, they are not being employed. Why? The counties do not have resources to employ them. And if they employ, they can't pay. So you remember we had a time, this Kakamega County is striking today, Bungoma County tomorrow, Nairobi County tomorrow. You see, okay. And then so doctors are not even attending to the patients because of the human resource related issue. So I still insist, and I will go with KMPDU. Let's form the health commission.
Ochieng.
Thank you. You know, Eugene, we don't need to make pronouncements. We need to ask where is the problem, and why is KMPDU asking for this? If we solve that problem, do we still need to centralize health? So do we centralize health or do we solve the problem? My brother here talks about resources. So we need to begin the conversation that do we increase resources at the county level? And we need to look at the merits of the devolved health. You see, it has more merits at the local level than demerits. The demerits are coming over in terms of employment of doctors, in terms of the salaries of doctors, in terms of the resources at the hospitals. And is it decentralization or is it corruption? What are we tackling here? Because at the end of the day, we even ask, let us centralize it. But if we don't solve the problem, or if we don't address the problem, then still it will be at the Ministry of Health.
Okay.
But at the same time, we are still having issues here and there. So for me, my major concern is that let us really get into the root of the problem with the county government. And you know, sometimes that it has been politicized. Even during campaign, their governors were saying that immediately I get in, all the doctors are going to be employed.
Okay, thank you.
Well, my brother talked about resources.
Yes. Yes. So I'll just pick up right away from where he left. If you talk about identifying the real issue, why did we actually decide to devolve healthcare in the first instance? Before now we got to this point, right? So I believe that could be, we could have a very substantive debate on that. But be that as it may, under the Constitution 2010, and after that, we've had several proposals on how to reform our health sector. One of them, as he said, was the proposal on having a health commission. Let me remind you that this was actually in the BBI 1 and 2, which a number of Kenyans and the judiciary, no offense, my brothers and sisters and my seniors decided to put on hold for the moment. But what are we looking at? We are looking at a profession that's being exploited. We are looking at a human resource that's one of the least attractive in the current job sector. So we really need to look at the welfare of doctors. One, I vouch 100% for establishing a nationwide or a national, or rather having a national health commission, rather than decentralizing the management of the medical profession to counties. I think this thing has been really mismanaged. Our governors are not serious. Some of them really even threaten medical doctors with the loss of employment. And these people are just asking you for salaries. So we really need to address the exploitation of doctors. The second issue is this. If we leave it at the county level, let our counties look for ways of how they can generate their own source revenue. Because the issue of budgetary constraints comes from the national government. You know, the national government distributes revenue, right, to the counties. But it has never been enough. That is why we needed the 35%, right? So we really need to address how to get, how counties can really generate their own source revenue. The other issue, which is my final point, is let us not politicize human resource matters, especially in this critical sector. Let us have a consensual or a broad-based decision-making. Let us come to an understanding. We have doctors, the key actors in government, national government generally, and at the Ministry of Health. Let us have the Council of Governors sit down and agree, because these are issues that can be tackled mutually. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Gentlemen, my director tells me that our time is over.
Can I say something?
In a second. Thank you for
Eugene, as young people, we need to have a vision. When we begin denying county government functions, you saw what NMS did to county government of Nairobi. And we need to know how county government or Jimbo system died in this country before. Majimbo system. You need to understand how it died in the first place. If we continue denying county government functions, we will reach a point and we start even questioning. Do we need to have county government even in the first place? Then which direction are we taking? As young people, we need to be very careful on where we are going to. So even on the issue of doctors, I want to ask KMPDU to sit down with the ministry and discuss the root of the problem. If it is the issue of resources, then let us have, as my brother here have said, let us have that commission at the national level to address those issues. But we really need to know that it was devolved by the Constitution. And if you keep on denying If this
Okay.
is successful, next time you're going to have another one, it's going to be successful and county governments are going to die. Thank you very much.
I get a point. Mr. Masika, I will have given you time. But,
It is well. Next time, create more time for us
Yes.
so that we discuss more issues.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for accepting my invite. Though some of you have come a bit late, but all in all, thank you so much, our viewers,
You would
for
have
tuning
limited
on.
this guy's time, but
Thank you so much thank you so much for tuning in on this live broadcast, of course, in the Insight, where we discuss pressing current affairs, current issues that, of course, are affecting us one-on-one, and of course, through the eyes of different stakeholders and opinion shapers. Of course, today we had three gentlemen helping us in this conversation. Well, every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m., we have this conversation. On behalf of everyone who has made this a success, I want to wish you a very good night. My name is Eugene Ochieng Kwach.